Hello, and welcome to Get Your Brush On. As always, I'm Randy the Goblin, and I'm just kind of hanging out here. I think what you're going to be picking today is going to be part one of a two-part process. Get out of the spotlight. Now. Bye, guys. Alright. This will be a two-part how-to on painting the Korn cannon. And this is part one. Basically, I'm just going to show you guys how I'm using an alternate paint method for the guys that kind of ride on top of it. So I've got one of the guys. As you can see, I have an extra arm sticking off here. That's just kind of how those guys are made. So the first step, of course, now you could have just primed it red, I suppose, because the first color we're going to apply is Wazdakka red. Now usually I use a base color first, but for this one I'm going to be using a layer paint, and that's more because it's a little bit closer in line to the color scheme that I'm going for. The color scheme I'm going to be going for is not the normal GW red. What I'm going to be doing is actually going to be an orange base. So I'm going to get this all finished up, and we'll be back. Alright, now that we've got the Wazdakka red base coated on here, the next color that we're going to work with is going to be Wildrider red. And I know it sounds like I'm doing a lot of reds, but if you look at Wildrider, it's actually the replacement color for Blaze orange. It's a very kind of reddish orange color. And what we're going to do with that is we're not going to completely coat the model, but we're going to do something like a relatively good layer. Like, there'll still be some Wazdakka, but it's only going to be in like the deepest kind of cracks, because we want this to be kind of a very orange looking dude. Alright, now that we've gotten the Wildrider red on, as you can see, you can barely see any more of the Wazdakka. You can only kind of see it like right here in between like the ribs and a little bit on the thigh here. That's the kind of layer that we're wanting. Alright. And now the next thing that we're going to do is take some of this Troll Slayer orange, and we're going to do something I like to call pinpoint highlighting. Now, what pinpoint highlighting is instead of just dry brushing the highlight on top, what we're going to do is we're going to take the brush, a detail brush, and kind of highlight the musculature. Just kind of outline it. Just going to pull out all that nice popped out, all those nice popped out muscles. The sculptor worked hard. Let's show off his work. And we're going to do this pretty much throughout the model. Now, the issue with Troll Slayer is that it, even for a layer paint, it's kind of thin. I don't know, I guess because Dwarf Slayers are, I don't know, thinning on top or something. I don't know. But you want to make sure that you shake it up real good, because if you don't, it won't coat like it should. And you'd end up having to do this highlighting twice. And we don't want that to happen now, do we? Alright, so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm going to go ahead and cut the feed and do the rest of it, and I'll show you. Alright, we're done with our first pinpoint highlight. As you can see, like I said, I just highlighted around each of the muscle groups, the lines in the face, around the butt, like that, or side of the head, like where it flares out, the fringe on the back here as well. Now the next thing that we're going to do is going to be another highlight. It's going to be the same kind of pinpoint method that we used before, and it's going to be Fire Dragon Blight. As you can see, this is a much brighter orange than the Troll Slayer. Much, much lighter one. So, like before, we're going to use our detail brush. And just kind of go in but not very much on the brush. And kind of just do a little bit of a highlight right next to the one we just did. And what this is going to do is it's just going to kind of add to what we've already done. See? And the reason for this is so that when we put in the wash, it'll blend all together and look very natural. So I'm going to go through and do what I just showed you. Alright, now that I've finished with our final pinpoint highlight, as you can see, I've gone through and gone over each and every one of the highlights that I had put in previous. Now, the main trick is to not cover the previous highlight completely, just get it next to. Because this is how to kind of build up that light. I mean, you can already kind of tell even before the wash, you know, where the muscle groups are, where the light's supposed to be, and it's just going to look a lot better once that wash is put on. But we're not going to put the wash on just yet. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to take some of this Yriel yellow. It's not a bright, well, it's not the brightest yellow. It's kind of like an in-between tone. And just going to put the yellow on all those dots. Got a little bit on the horn there on the cheek, but we'll fix that. See all these dots on the back, the thigh, the arms, the head. Basically, we're going to dot all of those with the yellow. To kind of bring them out. Now, I'm doing this individually because I want the yellow underneath to show through. I mean, the orange underneath to show through. Because these are so low, like they're not sculpted up very high, so if you try and dry brush them, you're going to end up covering up the skin. So it's going to be a pain, but just dot through. Alright, now that we've got our Yriel yellow dots all on this guy, now comes the fun part. We're going to wash him! And to do that, I'm going to drop my wash on the floor. Pick it up and shake it, and show you that it's Fuegan orange. Just kind of like a browny orange wash. And we want to do our best with this wash to get it on there good and even. Because if you can get it on here good and even, we're done with the skin after this point. If you can't get it on good and even, you're going to need to more than likely do a dry brush. But I'm going to work on this. There. Now that the wash is all nice and dry, as you can see, that wash has pretty much kind of melted those highlights together. And we have a nice kind of natural looking pumped up demon. Okay, so next we're going to deal with the horns and the claws and like the feet talons. And I'm going to use Skavenblight Dinge for those. Now, as far as the horns go, I'm not starting at the base of the head. I'm kind of coming out away from it a little bit to kind of give kind of the illusion that they're coming directly out of skin. So basically I'm starting from about that first little notch there and coming out from there. And I'm just going to get on the claw talons at the feet and the ones on the hands as well. Alright, now that we've gotten the Skavenblight gray on the horns, the claws, and I even did the hilt of the sword with it. See, you got it on the toenails there, all that good stuff. Alright, the next color we're going to do for that is I'm going to pull out the Adminastratum Gray, and we're going to do just a little bit of highlighting on all that stuff, or at least most of that stuff. Now this is going to be another kind of pinpoint highlight, in that I just want to kind of rub a little bit on the points of the horns, like that. And I'm going to do the same thing to the back. See? And there's one more little trick that I'm going to do, is at the very tips of these horns here, I'm kind of going to coat them a little bit. Just so they look a little bit more worn and sharpened, I guess. Now I'm going to put a little bit on the toenail. Well, it's like right here. Let's see if I can focus a little bit better there. Get it under the light. See, just a little bit of a highlight on the toes. And I'm going to do that on the claws as well. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, that I've got those highlights and everything on the horns, is I'm actually going to jump to the sword so I can get done with some paint. Because unfortunately, sharing with your spouse is kind of annoying. Alright, so in order to do the sword, we're going to do some Leadbealcher base, and this is going to be the blade color. Alright, so I got the blade done. I also took the liberty of painting the chains in that same Leadbealcher color. Now, what I'm going to do for the sword is I'm going to actually make it look flaming. And the way to do that is start out with some Flash Glitz yellow. And basically outline down the blade. So I've got the Flash Glitz yellow all on the blade now. As you can see, I've left just this little line here in the middle of the metal color, so that we can see that the sword is made of metal still. I've done that on both sides. Now the next color that we're going to use is the Yriel yellow. And we're going to go up the blade with it as well. But we're going to leave just a little bit of the Flash Glitz showing. See, not very much, just a little bit. Alright. Now, as you can see, it's just a thin line of the flash glitz that is still showing in there. Most of it's been covered by the Yriel. Now, the next color we're going to use is going to be the Dragon Blight. And it's basically what we've just done before with the Yriel. Just kind of going up the blade. And leaving some of the Yriel showing. Alright, so we've got the Dragonblight on there. Now, as you can see, my lines are not perfectly straight. They overlap each other in certain places. And that's fine, because, you know, fire is fluid. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. If it was perfectly straight, it wouldn't look like it was flaming. Alright. Now the last color that we're going to do is we're going to pull out a Troll Slayer Orange again. And like I said, be sure to shake this thing up because it is thin as all get out. And it's basically just going to be our last little layer. And most of it is just going to be getting those points. Alright, so now I've got that on there. As you can tell, it's not very much of the Troll Slayer on there. But the last thing we're going to do to make the blade look flamey is wash it with this Fuegan orange. So while I'm waiting for the sword to dry, I'm going to go ahead and wash the horns, nails, feet, and chain with some Nuln oil. Alright, now we're going to deal with the cross piece and pommel of the sword here. I'm going to start with some Balthasar gold. I really wouldn't call this a gold, it's more like a bronze, in my opinion. Everybody is all impressed with the whole non-metallic gold stuff that a lot of other people are doing now. Yeah, I'm kind of impressed that people can actually pull that off, but honestly, I have no problem with actual metallic golds. Or metallic metals for that matter. It's a neat trick. I like to know how they pull it off, but it seems like a lot of extra steps for something that you can just do this to. I know I'm like the queen of extra steps, but I don't know, that just seems like a lot even for me. Alright, now that we've got the Balthasar gold on there, we're going to do a little bit of pinpoint highlighting with the Runelord brass. Always remember to check up your golds and other metal colors, because they tend to separate a little bit easier than the others. Alright, and we just hold your mouth right and do a highlight. Right there on top, see? I know it's kind of hard to tell, but basically you just trace the top line and around the ornamentation just a little bit. And down like the middle section of the pommel and across the top of the two hooks. And that's all you do for that. Now we're going to highlight the sword hilt with Fenrisian gray. And we're not going to do a pinpoint highlight because that would take one all day, and two, it's not necessary. So we're just going to do a little bit of a dry brush. On the hilt to just kind of bring up, just to kind of brighten it just a little bit. Alright, we're going to skip over to the tongue now. And for the tongue's base coat, we're going to be using some Caledor Sky. And the reason why I chose Caledor Sky was that blue and orange, or what is known as complementary colors for those of you that didn't take a whole bunch of art classes, and complementary colors look really good together. It's kind of like red and green at Christmas. That's they're complementary colors. Yellow and purple, complementary colors. Blue and orange. You know, they're ones that are directly across from each other on the color chart. Okay, so we got that base coated. Alright, now that we've finished coating the tongue in the Caledor Sky, what we're going to do is going to be another pinpoint highlight on it. And we're going to do that with the Teclis blue. Or Teclis blue, I guess. I don't know. For some reason, I just want to call it Teclis. I don't know why. I think it might have something to do with, there was a D&D character named Teclis in the first D&D campaign that I ever was in. That might have something to do with it. Now, what I'm just doing here is I just ran the Teclis blue just down the side, each side of the tongue, like just right here, like right along it, on both sides. And then that's done. That's all you do with that. Alright, now that we've got the blue, the Teclis blue on there, what we're going to do is we're going to make some taste buds, because the sculptor didn't sculpt any, but I think it makes the tongue look just a little bit better. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Lothern blue and just get a little bit on the tip of my brush here. And just put a couple little dots. And there, he's got taste buds. So we're going to leave the tongue alone now and let that dry, because the next step is we're going to wash it. But we don't want to wash it right now because we'll ruin the fun taste buds. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to finish up the mouth just a little bit more. And we're going to take some Utabi bone, because the Utabi are useless unless they're in paint form. And we're just going to paint the teeth with this. Top and bottom. See, and now we've got some teeth. I have fangs now. While we're still working on the face, we got tongue, we got some teeth. Now we need some eyeballs. So what we're going to do to get the eyeballs is we're going to use the Flash Glitz Yellow. Now I realize this is super bright, but we want this guy to have some nice glowy eyes. But because his skin is so bright to begin with, we got to go, up a notch. So we just get a little bit on the brush here. And get it in there. Now, because we want to have kind of a glow effect, gonna run just a little bit of yellow kind of on the eye ridges, around the eye ridges, see? Just little lines. Just to kind of give the illusion that there's some object source lighting going on here. Okay, but the eyes aren't done yet because, yeah, now it just looks like I smeared some yellow on there. It doesn't really pop. So to make it pop, I'm going to use some white scar. And again, this is super bright, so, because we want it to stand out. So I just get a little bit of the white scar on the tip of my brush here. And then just put a little dot of white inside the yellow. Now as you can see, it got a little messy. So in order to clean that up, I'm going to take some Wildrider red to kind of clean up around the area. Be sure to clean your brush off in between each paint use. So I'm going to clean up the object source around the eye a little bit so it's not so big. Kind of run a little line in between there, just to make sure. See if I can get a see. I ran that little line in between the yellow and the eye, just to kind of show that it's object source and not just a smear. Alright, so the eyes are done. So we're going to go back to the cross piece now, and the pommel. And the way to do just a little bit more to them is we're going to take some Seraphim Sepia and wash both crosspiece and pommel with it. It ends up taking away just a little bit of the shine. Kind of dirties it up just a little bit, but not like, you know, a whole lot like if I had put Nuln oil on it or something. It'll kind of add some depth, like especially here in the pommel piece. Alright, so that's all we do to that. Alright, the next wash that we're going to do, we're going to put some Drakenhof Nightshade on the hilt of the sword and the tongue, now that the tongue's had a chance to dry. And the reason for this is going back to what I said earlier about blue and orange being complementary colors. They just kind of work together. They just kind of add just a little something to each other. Don't worry about getting a little bit inside the mouth there, because it'll just kind of darken it up and make it look like the tongue's not just jutting out of his skin. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is going to pull out some of this Guilliman blue glaze, and I'm actually going to put it on the points on the horns. Again, this is just another one of my complementary color accents that I'm going to do. This is, of course, if you don't personally like this idea, by all means, don't do it. But all I'm doing is the big tip all the way to the first corner point, and then I'm doing just the rest of the points. It's literally all I'm doing. Because when it dries, it'll end up looking kind of neat. Alright, now, because there's like these orange gaps in between each of the teeth, we're going to darken those up with some Nuln oil. And all I'm going to do is get a little bit on my brush and just kind of wipe it over the teeth. Just inside the lip line. That way when it dries, it'll have a clear, defined mouth. gun line. Alright, last finishing touches up on the sword. Now, it's time for our cruddy brush and Necron Compound. It's one of the dry paints. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cruddy brush here and just kind of wipe that Necron Compound right there on the center, or that metal still is. And it gives it a nice kind of shiny metal look. I've got a sword thing. Well, I still have that, my cruddy brush and Necron Dry Compound out. I'm also going to just dry brush the chains here with it. To give them kind of a little bit of a shine. Alright, as you can see, we're pretty much done at this point. There's like only one last little detail that we're going to do. And that is taking the Flash Glitz Yellow again. And that is to get it on a brush and get some on the brush and that's not dry and useless. And we're going to do those kind of go over some of these dots again on the chest and the arms and all that good stuff. Alright, now that I got all those pinpointed, I also outline a little bit of the fringe on the back there, and a little bit of fringe on the head. Now I'm going to take out my cruddy brush, and with the same Flash Glitz Yellow, I'm going to wipe most of it off, and then I'm going to take it and kind of just apply a very light dry brush to the areas that have the scales, I suppose is the best way to put it. There you have it. That is how you paint a Bloodletter crewman for the Korn cannon. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it informative. Leave your comments below, and if you guys have any suggestions or desire to see me paint something specific, let me know.